Christ as a whole is more than just the man Jesus. While I do believe that Jesus was a great man, a great being on this earth, I also believe that we all have the potential to live up to Christ-like levels of consciousness. And Christ consciousness is something that is ever present in every aspect of creation. So I'm looking around now, I see birds flying around, I see trees, and they all have Christ consciousness. And it's not because they were crucified, it's not because of anything they said or did, it's because they're alive and they're imbued with the spark of life. And that spark of life is essential to all living beings. And I think that when you tune into what makes you alive rather than what's holding you back and what's going to eventually make you dead is an easy way to look at it. You embody Christ consciousness.
But why do you, here as a layman, the question arises for me is that Christ was only yesterday, 2000 years old, while the world is much older, and the human entity and the human beings are way older, not hundreds of thousands, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, And so why to
use the word Christ,
symbolize it with the Christ? Why not to say human?
Because it is an image that we can easily access, and especially in the West, it's something that we've been brought up on, even if you're subconsciously or consciously even don't believe in any of that. It's something that's a easy image and metaphor for us to conceptualize. Because when you say cosmic, it seems up in the air. Okay, this tree has cosmic consciousness. This is true. Everything has cosmic consciousness. But Christ consciousness is taking that and applying it to the human experience. He's a human that embodied cosmic consciousness to such a high degree that...
Would you go beyond that? Because when you say Christ consciousness, it kind of concises it, minimizes it, brings it in narrows it down, brings it in a bowl, and instead of the bowl, and let's spread it out in the wider stratosphere.
Okay, I understand exactly where you're coming from, but
I understand that when you say Christ, people could relate more to that thought, because then they have a symbolic...
It demystifies it, and that's a big thing for me, because at least personally, I can only speak for myself. Most of my life, I've heard of Christ, and I wasn't raised on any one religion, I wasn't raised on any one faith. I found my faith, I found my belief, and for so long, I mystified Christ. I felt like he was like a mystical being that was untouchable and unrelatable. So what I'm trying to do, what I hope to inspire people to understand is that it shouldn't be something that's mystified. It should be something that's inspiring. It should be something that's like, yes, just something that's inspiring, that a human can possibly reach such a high level of consciousness that they affect the collective consciousness on such a high level. Because it's not about having the most followers, having the most money, having this or that. And I'm focused on the human experience because in this current lifetime, I am a human. And I am so much more than that, but I am living as a human right now. And I want people to realize that there's a lot of power in being a human and living the human experience. Because so many times, at least personally, I felt powerless in my humanity. I felt powerless in this body. I felt limited by this body. But you are so much more than this body. You are, like you said, cosmic consciousness. But so many people, when they hear that, it sounds so big, it sounds so abstract, that if you don't have the tools to break it down, it becomes something that you just completely let go of because you don't feel like you have any power in it.
See, when you say we are, and I would like you to talk about that, because when we say we are bigger than human, and to me, I totally agree with that. The reason being, and my concept or my take on that is that because when you say we are more than that, that means the life itself, which is, when you say human, it is flesh, the hands, the feet, the eyes, the head, the brain side or whatever. But when you say we are bigger than that, when you say talk of life, life is expands, and then you become a part of this whole universe. But I rather say the whole universe becomes you.
So I agree, and I think that's an amazing way of looking at things. And one way that I've kind of, once again, demystified, that's a word that really comes into play when we talk about this stuff, is
And makes a lot of sense.
is realizing that in our dreams, we are more than our physical body. We let our physical body go for a couple hours, and we travel the universe, the omniverse, with our soul. Our soul travels through space and time, and then we come back every morning, come back into our body, and then we're here again. And a lot of ancient cultures have the belief that this world around us, that tree behind me, us speaking right now, this is part of the dream. This is the dream, and everything else is reality. When we're dreaming, we're going back home. We're going back to places that are more real than real. But we're experiencing this dream. Like you said, Christ was only a second ago in the cosmic wheel of time. 2,000 years ago in our time, our current conception of time. I'm only 21. That's a blink. That's a blink. Not even a fraction of time. That's a blink. Yet I've experienced so much. And in my experience, that has been a long time. And what's amazing is that this dream is beautiful. But at the end of the day, to put it simply, we are both the dream and the dreamer. But we are both the author and the main character, or the character in our story. You choose what character you are, but hopefully you make yourself the main character, because this is your life to live. And that's not to say don't treat people with respect and love, but all I'm saying is we're the author. So on the higher level, the higher scale of time, we are writing our own story, but we're also acting out our own story. And that's the beauty of it. So it's not a separate entity. Like, I believe in God, I believe in something that created us, but I don't believe it's separate from what we are. I believe that we are a core aspect of it.
Very much so, very much so. And because while you were talking, my mind was running over to the Indian mythology, and they have thousands and thousands of years old culture and civilization over there. And if you see over there, they would have these engraved statues and idols over there, and in different positions. So I mean, to me that was freedom, because they would show nude women in sexual act, and and this was not yesterday, this was maybe thousands of years back. So they as you were rightly saying, you are the story yourself. So they were going beyond this concept of seeing yourself in the mirror, or seeing your shadow or face in
seeing us for what we truly are.
Yes. Yeah.
And painting a picture that is cosmic, like you said. So I do agree, and that's why, I mean, I love, I don't know much about all types of Indian mythology, but I do know a lot about the triad, because there's a lot of threes in any culture, in any religion, in any spirituality.
Because
Father,
you mention
Son,
Krishna all the time.
Krishna consciousness is the same idea, just different parts of the world, different words for it. But once again, it comes down to three: Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Shiva, Brahma, and who's the last one? What's his name? The Preserver. Shiva, Brahma. It's escaping me right now. But there's three, right? The Preserver, the Creator.
I mean, the Trinity thing,
The Trinity is everywhere.
Yeah.
So that is just a way for us to access the understanding that we are mind, body, and soul. That's the easiest way to look at it. Like, we have a mind that is ever expanding. We have a soul that is unique to us, and we have a body that is unique to us. But they all work in unison to create this experience that we have of growth. And for some of y'all that don't know or haven't seen this, I have a tattoo of Shiva right here. It's so it is, to demystify this, it is not an idol that I have to look to, and it's not an idol. All right, to me it means it symbolizes an aspect of creation. Okay, Vishnu. Okay, there we go. There we go. Hell yeah. But Shiva to me symbolizes the constant and ever-changing aspect of this universe. Nothing remains the same. Even this tree behind us, by the time we leave and come back in a couple hours, won't be the same tree and we won't be the same men. Everything is constantly changing. And when you try to keep something the same, when you try to keep something, as we would put it in today's words, stable, Shiva, or the force of transmutation, will come in and destroy it and transmute it and change it. So this tattoo to me symbolizes going with the change rather than running away from it.
Yeah, as you were talking
Evolution.
about this change, and in a couple of hours we come back and this tree will not be the same. I was right at that time, as this breeze was touching me, I thought of it and I said, yes, but 2 hours you come, the breeze may not be that far. It may not be going in the same direction. It may be going in a different direction. So yes, it's a constant change, and beautiful. And beautiful. I mean, that's one word which describes the whole episode of nature.
And I think a lot of times, at least personally, we focus on what is wrong, or what appears to be wrong in this creation, in this dream, and that blinds us. It's like walking around like a horse walking around with blinders and not seeing the world around it. Wow, the sun's coming out. This is beautiful. This is amazing. But when you focus on what you can see, what you can feel, what is real, and not putting a word to it, this is kind of going on a little tangent, but when you focus on what you are truly experiencing rather than trying to apply words to it, like just one example real quick. This is a beautiful tree, but I'm not going to look at it and be like, well, it's got 4 branches and this and that, and try to identify it with things that make sense to me. No, look at the tree, and this might be a very artistic way of looking at it, but like, and feel the tree, feel it for what it is, appreciate it for what it is, because it's here right now, and it is blessing us with its presence.
It's a life of a kind.
It's a exactly kind of a life, exactly, or a life of a kind, however you want to put it. But it is beautiful in and of itself, and naming it and putting a title to it just diminishes its beauty. So trying to identify ourselves with concepts that are human, this is kind of going back to the Christ consciousness versus cosmic consciousness even. Identifying ourselves with human things can only take us so far. As long as you identify yourself with purely the human experience, you're limiting yourself to the human experience. Whereas when you open your mind to, I believe that Christ consciousness is a great way to start, great way to conceptualize the evolution of humanity and its consciousness as a whole. And it's not an individual thing. Like, sure, individually we can up our consciousness, but every time an individual ups their consciousness, it's also upping the collective. So whenever you have an organic thought, a new thought, you make that thought accessible to people all over the world. So a little fun example about that is there's been tons of examples of when something is invented in one hemisphere of the earth, within 50 years, the same idea is invented across the earth with no apparent connection, exact physical connection at least. And I believe the reason behind that is that there is a mind that connects us all, that we all are a part of, beyond our physical bodies. And when you make a thought accessible to that collective, it becomes accessible for other people to grasp onto. So yeah, it's just beautiful. So that is the human experience, the human consciousness. But there's also an aspect of us that is more than human, that is transcending of all things physical. And that is a lot more complicated to not only conceptualize, but to feel. Because, at least personally, I don't always feel that way. It's easy to feel lost in the dream, feel very immersed in it. Just like when you're playing a video game, you get lost in your character. Not to say that this is a video game, that's not what I'm trying to say, but you get lost in the sauce. And when you step away from the video game and you look at your hands, you look at the world around you, you realize, oh, there's more than just the video game. Just like when you step away from this physical body and you step away from everything that is human, you go out in nature and you remove those labels that you're putting on everything.
What is more tangible?
Exactly. When you come out in nature and you just breathe, you don't say a word, you don't listen to music, you just experience. You experience so much more than anything human.
Yeah, that is correct, because there is so much more than human.
But a lot of us
So-
forget that. I
exactly.
forgot that. So I know a lot of other people have forgotten that too.
Right. And then there is nothing bad or wrong about it too either, because there's a time, like this moment, we are thinking of that, and then all of a sudden you get this urge to hold that cup and take a sip of coffee.
We chose to be here. To put it simply, we chose to be here.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, myself included, like I said, I'm not speaking for everyone. I'm speaking for people that have thought like me. And a lot of people. What were we saying a second ago? I'm sorry, I got lost in track.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be distracted and then come back to
We
that.
chose to be here.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Thank you. We chose to be here. And this experience, although it may seem like there's a lot of hardships going on, there are hardships. We live in a world of duality. When you identify with the hardship in any aspect of life, you give it more life than it already has. And when you free yourself from that, when you realize that life is happening
I
for me.
must stop you over here, because what you said is really, you can write an encyclopedia on that you give it more life than it has, and and you're talking in reference to the daily routines or daily troubles or daily, whatever, responsibilities you feel or have. So, yes, and we get so much immersed in that people have committed suicides because of those momentary, timely, hurdles or timely problems or difficulties.
And I understand, because I've been at points where I've been close to I'm gonna just say close to wanting to leave this experience. But I realized looking back that even if I had chosen to do one of those things, one, it would have been irreversible, and two, I would have just been born again as a human and have to relearn the same lessons all over again. And this earth, this experience is a school. And when you go to school, if you drop out, you're gonna have to either work your ass off or go back to school at some point and do it all over again. I learned that in my life, and that's just about school. So it's a metaphor that applies to life. So if you check out of this reality, Lord knows you're gonna be born again in another reality and have to relearn the same lessons. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, because I think that the lessons you learn here are pivotal to your experience as a being in this universe. And like I said, it all comes down to you chose to be here in this moment in time. And as far as moments in time, it's not a horrible moment in time. I mean, there are hardships everywhere, always have been. But we are more connected technologically, spiritually, more aware than we have been in the recent past. I can't speak for all of history, because a lot of history is forgotten. And we don't know what truly happened. We don't know how the pyramids were built. We don't know what was transcending at that point. I like to use the word transcending when I speak of the pyramids, because it wasn't about anything going down. It was about literally transcendence. Because on the topic of that, just to conceptualize things a little bit, the United States is 300 years old. 400 if you want to like up it a little bit, right? 400 years old, let's go with that. What have we been focused on as a collective? Think about that for a second. What as a collective have we been focused on? Is it money? Is it spiritual growth? Is it this or that? You tell me. I'm asking you a genuine question. So as the listener right now, think for a second, what have we been focused on as a collective? And now put that to the side and think about Egypt, a at least 5,000-year-old society. Sure, there was ups and downs. There's been ups and downs in the United States. Like there, for sure. I don't even want to get into it, but for sure. Right? But they were focused on, as a collective, answering the bigger questions in life. what happens after we die? What happens with this and that? How do we connect with the world around us? And if you look at it and put it into a human, to take that, what I just said, and put it into a human dichotomy, a 300-year-old human, let's take out one of the zeros, make that a 30 to 40-year-old human versus a 500-year-old human. How much difference would there be in wisdom between those two humans? A good deal. So that's why I love Egypt. That's why I look to Egypt for answers sometimes. Because I know that we haven't been looking for we haven't even been asking the right questions in our society as a collective. So why would I look here for answers? Or even India is a good example. A thousands of year old society. There is a lot of truth in that. And there's truth in everything. I think there's no one objective truth. There are truths. And I think a lot of times the problems that we have on a collective, I like using the word collective because we are a collective. A lot of times the issues that we have is because we are disagreeing about what is an objective truth. My truth is the real truth. Your truth is not the real truth. Or your truth is the real truth and my truth isn't the real truth. And that argument can go on forever, and it has gone on forever. No matter what the beliefs are, there's always been that I'm right, you're wrong. And what I'm saying, what I believe, is that everyone is right. Everyone is right. But the question is, how does your level of right allow you to apply what you have, the gifts you have, tangibly to make a difference in this reality, across all realities? And for some truths, it's very limiting. Racist people, in a way, they believe they're true. But it's damaging to the collective. It's damaging, oh, there's a nice bird. It's damaging to humanity because it's about separation. So the easy way to think about it is, are your beliefs leading you towards separation, or are they leading you towards unity? And I think that's the most important question, because you have to ask yourself that question. I can't answer that for you. I can answer it for me, and I know my beliefs right now are leading me towards unity. Not only with myself, within myself, but with the world around me, with the people around me, with everything around me. And if your beliefs are leading you to separation, that leads to destruction, not only of the world around you, but of your soul. Because if you're separated from what created you, you're separated from the world around you, you lose life force, chi. And if you're losing chi, losing life force, you're dying. If you're living in unity, you're embodying that life force, living with that chi, you're living. So are you living or are you dying?
Very good. Yeah, that's a good commentary on one aspect of this life, in separation or unity. So let's make it to that, and we'll continue with another episode.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening, and I hope something that we said or talked about resonated with y'all. We're making these podcasts mainly to educate people and to open people's eyes to other ways of seeing the world.
Or not even educate, just to forward,
educate isn't the word. As soon as I said it, it sounded wrong. To offer alternate opinions and ways of looking at the world. Because, at least personally, I had to look a million different places just to formulate one conscious thought of unity. So this 25-minute talk has been a lifetime or lifetimes in progress. And if we can make your experience on Earth a little bit easier, make it a little bit more mystical, make it a little bit more fun, make it a little bit more interesting, then we're gonna do it, and we're gonna keep doing it. So,
and keep the communication going.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this communication going. So I hope you like this, but if you don't, we're gonna keep doing it anyway, because I think people need to hear this stuff. And I've waited so long personally to speak up on my truth, speak up on what I believe, because in the past, every time that I've spoken up, I've been shot down. And that trauma has held me back from speaking my truth, but I won't let that happen anymore. So thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day, and God bless your soul. Thank you.